सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We are reading from the book Pramana Vicara, an inquiry into the nature of knowledge by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. New section. Dvividha Anumanam, twofold inference. Anumanam is also twofold, Dvividham, Swartham and Parartham. Swartham is inferring for yourself and Parartham for communicating your inference to others. Now we have seen how a Vyapti is established, Vyapti meaning connection. However, when you are communicating your inference to another person, the inference has to have 5 avyavas, 5 aspects to make the communication correct and complete. So what's an avyava? The 5 members of Anumanam are Avyavam basically means limb or path. So the 5 members of Anumanam are Pratignya, opening statement, Hetu, reason, Udharanam, the Udaharanam, the example with the generalization, Upanaya, a statement that the Paksha, the locus, has the Hetu, reason as its dharma, and Nigamanam, the conclusion. So again, the inference has to have 5 avayavas: Pratignya, opening statement, Hetu, reason, Udaharanam, the example with the generalization, Upanaya, a statement that the Paksha, which is the locus, has the Hetu, the reason as its dharma, and Nigamanam, the conclusion. In Swartha Anumanam, inferring for oneself, the last 2 steps are omitted. The last 2 steps being the Upanaya, the statement that the Paksha, the locus, has the Hetu, the reason for it as its dharma, and Nigamanam, the conclusion. So the last 2 steps are omitted. In Swartha Anumanam, only Pratignya, Hetu and Udaharanam, that is the opening statement, reason and the example of the generalization are there. The last 2 are omitted. The mountain has fire because there is smoke, as in the kitchen. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. The first step is called Pratignya. Pratignya is the conclusion to be proved, made as an opening statement. You declare the conclusion first and prove it later. In Vedanta, we do this all the time. For example, there is a statement in the Chandogya Upanishad which says, Yasmin Vijñate Sarvam Vijñatam Bhavati. Yasmin Vijñate Sarvam Vijñatam Bhavati. Knowing which one thing, everything is as well known. These and other similar statements are made in the Upanishads and then proved later. In the example, Parvataha Vahniman is the Pratignya. You point out to somebody that the mountain has fire. He says, I do not see the fire. How do you say the mountain has fire? Dhumavatvat, because it has dhuma, cloud of smoke. That is the hetu, the reason for arriving at the conclusion. That is the second requirement. The third is udaharanam. We have already seen the example of fire in the kitchen. We know that there is fire in the kitchen because we can see the smoke. People who run factories where there is continuous fire involved, like a cement factory, use this knowledge effectively. They cannot allow the fire in the factory to go out at any time. If it does, to make the factory operational again is an expensive and time-consuming exercise. The owner of the factory is alert to see the smoke in the chimney, even if he is outside the factory. If the chimney is smoking, the factory is running. He can relax in the car. If smoke is not there, he would have to act. He may try to call the works manager or someone else to find out why and initiate action. Udaharanam gives the vyapti. Yo so dhumavan sa sa yo dhumavan sa sa vahaniman. This vyapti jnanam, knowledge of the postulate, is contained in the example. When you say parvataha vahaniman, you know wherever there is smoke, there will be fire. How can you say that the mountain has fire? You say that because the mountain has dhuma. You have to cite ayam parvataha dhumavan. This mountain is dhumavan. This is called hetu upanaya, the fourth factor. The fifth is nigamanam. Tasmat tat tatha iti nigamanam. Because that is there, this is there. Tasmat tat tatha iti nigamanam. Therefore, you arrive at parvataha vahaniman, that is called nigamanam, summing up. The sentence with all these five factors conveys inferential knowledge to others. Pratignya, opening statement, parvataha vahaniman, the mountain has fire. Paksha has the sadhya. Hetu, reason, dhumavatvat, because it has smoke. Udaharanam, yo dhumavan sa sa vahaniman. Yatha mahanase, wherever there is smoke, there is fire, just as in the kitchen. The example has the vyapti, the generalization included in it. Upanaya, ayam parvataha dhumavan, this mountain has smoke. Nigamanam, tasmat tatha, therefore it is so. Tasmat parvataha vahaniman, therefore this mountain has fire. Arthapatti, multi-step inference. There is another type of inference called arthapatti. Arthat apattihi, arthat apattihi, arthapatti. Arthat, by implication, apattihi, arrived at. Knowledge arrived at by implication is called arthapatti. This means when knowledge is used when it is not possible to gain knowledge otherwise. Anyatha anupapattau anyatha. Anyatha anupapattau anyatha, otherwise. Anyatha is otherwise. Anupapattau, when it is not possible. Arthapatti, pramanam, is used. You come to a conclusion, an inferential conclusion that will not be possible otherwise. An example will make it easy to understand. The stock example is Devadatta, who does not eat during the day. That is one fact, pratyaksha. You have followed him from 6 a.m. when he comes out of bed till he goes to bed. You observe him the whole day. Devadatta does not eat at all. This is one fact you are sure of. You have watched him for 48 days, one mandalam. One mandalam is 48 days. If he is not eating at all, Devadatta should lose weight. Instead, Devadatta puts on weight. This is another fact that you are sure of. That means the person is nocturnal. He must be eating during the night. It is very clear. One datum is that Devadatta does not eat during the day. The other datum is that he did not lose weight even after 48 days. Then you conclude that Devadatta must be eating during the night. Arthapatti has at least one additional piece of datum. You do not see him eating in the night because you are not around in the night. But during the day you have been around and he did not eat. You conclude that he is eating during the night. You come to that conclusion because he is maintaining his weight even after 48 days. Therefore, you must wait for a few days for the conclusion. That is arthat apatti. This is a separate type of anumana, more than one step inference. Arthapatti is an important pramanam. You look at the dashboard of your car, you come to the conclusion that there is petrol. The dashboard will also tell you the speed of the car, whether there is sufficient air pressure in the tires, and several similar such information. This dashboard tells you everything. This is not anumanam, but more than one step inference called arthapatti. A plane takes off and lands using arthapatti, using a series of sensors, transmitters, and other mechanical and electronic devices, and the various meters in the cockpit. All the theories, the whole body of science, biology or quantum physics, atomic sciences, etc., are based upon Arthapatti. We use Arthapatti regularly in daily life. Here is another example. There is this person who talks in a certain way during the day. In the evening, the whole talking style changes. You see him talking, behaving differently. There must be some reason for this difference. One is observed data that there is difference in their behavior pattern. Not just one day, but day after day. From this observation, you get the Vyapti Jnanam. When evening comes, he is different. What is the Hetu? The Hetu is that he goes to the bar to enjoy the happy hour right after office. Happy hour is a footnote, a period of time when the price of drinks at a bar is reduced. Vedanta Shastra uses this only to negate people's wrong Arthapatti, to point out the fallacies in their conclusions by citing the reasoning. Vedanta does not do this by shouting at the person with the wrong conclusion. This is not going to work in knowledge. Vedanta has only to point out the fallacies and allow one to understand the errors. This is like judo, where the opponent's force is directed back at him to defeat him. So too, Vedanta uses logic of the other schools against them by pointing out the fallacies in their reasoning. People think they are very rational, and we have to point out the illogicality, the irrational conclusions by showing where the missing links are. Usually there are huge gaps, Grand Canyons in their argument. Therefore, we need to use Arthapatti. In English, Arthapatti is translated as presumption, which does not adequately capture the meaning. That is why I did not use it. But you should know that it is used as a translation for Arthapatti. Pratyaksha Pramanam is the lifeline for thinking, for understanding, for Jnanam. Other Pramanams such as Anumanam and Arthapatti are all based on data from Pratyaksha perceptions. This is how we gather knowledge. Upamanam, illustration. There is another source of knowledge, means of knowledge called Upamanam, illustration or example. Some people do not count this as a Pramanam. However, the more you categorize the Pramanam, the more thorough you are. Otherwise, you have to bracket some of them without a basis. For example, one may argue that Arthapatti can be brought under the head of inference, but the two types of inference are not the same. Upamiyate anena iti upamanam. Something is upamiyate, talked about with approximation. Upamanam is an approximation. The famous example is of Gavaya, an animal like a cow. It is an antelope with the size of a cow. I tell you, when you go to this forest, look for Gavaya. You ask what a Gavaya is. It's like a cow. With that statement, you now have the size and the imagery of a cow. You have some knowledge of Gavaya because of this approximation, which is indirect knowledge. When you see a Gavaya, you are able to connect the animal with the name Gavaya. You now have direct knowledge because you are armed with this approximate knowledge. You will not take them to be cows. You will recognize them as Gavaya. The approximation gives rise to indirect knowledge, just as inference gives you indirect knowledge. Anything that is not objectified by your senses or witness perception is called indirect knowledge. Knowledge born of other means such as Anumanam, Arthapatti, Upamanam is indirect knowledge. Upamanam is a very useful pramanam. It is called Drishtanta in Sanskrit. Drishta Sadrisham roughly means something already known. Drishta means something that which is seen, already experienced. Sadrisha means approximately equal to that. We sometimes hear the expression, it tastes like amritam, nectar. Neither the speaker nor the listener has ever tasted amritam. How is he going to understand it? I have heard people say Vedanta is like nectar. That is not Drishtanta, it is Shrutanta. He has read it somewhere, heard it somewhere. That is not Drishtanta. Drishtanta is Drishta Sadrisham, similar to something you have experienced before. That Drishtanta you cite in order to convey the truth about an object that is not known to this person. If the illustration or example used is not known to the person, it is not going to be useful. One person does not know what is eternal and you tell him it is supreme. He then asks, what is supreme? It is eternal. Such an explanation does not convey anything. It is useless. Where are my chappals? it is near the umbrella. Where is the umbrella? Near the chappals. In this case, at least I can look for it because I know what chappals are and I know what an umbrella is. I can look for an umbrella and chappals being together. But what is the supreme, eternal, immortal, and so on? Neither the speaker nor the listener understand what is being talked about. A drishtanta example should be prasiddha, something already known to the other person and to the speaker. Further, it should be approximately equal to the other object called the darshtanta, exemplified. The drishtanta and the darshtanta should have sadrishyam, similarities. The drishtanta example and the darshtanta, that which is exemplified, should have sadrishyam, similarities. The similarities have to be conveyed in terms of features of the object you want to convey. Not every feature will be common between the drishtanta and the darshtanta, between the example and the object being pointed out. If they were, it would not be an example, it would be the same object. If I say a gavaya is like a cow, it means it is similar in many respects. A gavaya has no horn, nor does it have a dewlap. It is like a cow in its size and has 4 legs and looks somewhat like a cow. It is an example. It is not pratyaksha, it is not anumanam, nor arthapatti. Yet you now have an idea of what a gavaya is. You did not get it by pratyaksha because you did not see the gavaya, nor by anumanam. You do not have the 5 avayavas. In this case, indirect knowledge is gained by upamanam. Therefore, upamanam is an independent means of knowledge. It is a valid means of knowledge and is counted separately. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.